Of all the classic movies to leave a significant mark on those who watched it, The Wizard of Oz remains at the top of the pile, and yet, of all the contemporary films it's influenced, 2022's Pearl is by far the strangest, largest departure. Naturally, this influence is mainly stylistic, seeing as how Pearl is a brutal horror film and character study functioning as a prequel to the sex-filled slasher X, whereas The Wizard of Oz is a family-friendly story of adventure that's beloved by children and adults alike. But Ty West's Pearl clearly shows an influence from classic films of the medium's early days, not only with its soaring cinematic score and old-timey setting, both of which lend it one of the most unique atmospheres in the entire horror genre, but also due to its plot centering around a young woman trapped on a farm longing for a more eventful and glamorous life. Pearl, played by Mia Goth, is brought to life with an astonishing performance, one in which the actress totally disappears into the character as her eccentric personality, strange mannerisms, and obsession with achieving something more in her life are clear from the very opening scene. Pearl's life kind of sucks as she's stuck on this farm with her husband sent off to World War I, living with her controlling German mother and her paralyzed father, but you know, at the very least, she has this cute little goose to keep her company. What the fuck? With the murder of this poor farm animal, Pearl is immediately shown to be a counterfeit version of Dorothy, a girl thinking she's destined for a great adventure, for a reprieve from this depressingly monotonous life. But in the end, she's trapped and can't handle that fact. We're immediately shown a suffocating sense of entrapment on this farm, and this mundane life and the understandable desire to escape it make her out to be a very sympathetic, if also unhinged and frightening protagonist, especially considering that this desire has been used as a motif in countless works for centuries. The context of the war and the film's general place in the year 1918 also brings with it some fascinating themes, for example with how we're shown the side of the war often untouched by most films and stories, those left at home to keep things running. Additionally, the context of the Spanish flu and pandemic measures is scarily relevant to what happened just a few years ago, making Pearl's feelings of isolation and a longing for the outside world hit even closer to home. I love the juxtaposition of the film's warm, colorful, whimsical atmosphere and beautiful cinematography with the dark content underneath the surface, perfectly showcasing a balanced view of the past with both nostalgia and critical hindsight playing roles. We learn of Pearl's infatuation specifically with the art of film, which is obviously relatable for so many of us watching, furthering that critical bond between the audience and the protagonist that makes this film feel so real and engaging. However, we are reminded from time to time of how crazy she is, as soon after she ends up humping a scarecrow while pretending it's the projectionist from her local movie theater. Although if you think about it, I don't think most people these days would find it that odd at all. Maybe we should just consider Pearl a pioneer in sex toy design. Pearl's mother is a great main character that perfectly balances out her daughter's personality with a harsh nature that reinforces Pearl's disobedience and resentment for this type of lifestyle. In fact, I'd even say it's one of my favorite character dynamics in a recent horror movie due to how unique it is and how well the two characters influence each other, with each scene altering the ebb and flow very subtly. Other characters like her father and sister-in-law provide some much-needed normalcy to the perspective of the film, showing us everything people like Pearl and her mother put innocent bystanders through, from the awkward to the horrific. Lines like,
"All this isolation has been enough to make one mad, hasn't it?"
function as great social commentary on how isolation impacts mental health, as well as foreshadowing for the future actions of our titular leading lady. But above all, I love small and blink-and-you'll-miss-it details that make the world come to life more than ever. For example, the inclusion of this poster from the lost 1917 Cleopatra film. You see, I know that's a very careful and niche detail that they didn't have to add, because you'd have to be as gigantic of a nerd as I am to even catch it. Pearl's relationship with our final main character, the projectionist, is also very intriguing, as this type of relationship in a movie would normally have him be full of red flags, attempting to manipulate and use a young, naive Pearl, but instead, Pearl's boundless insanity transforms him into the victim. He plunges her into a world of newly found knowledge about the inception of smut films, which reveals another side of Pearl's character, a fascination with the disturbing and taboo. A side that, dare I say, is reciprocated within a lot of the film's audience as well. Through their many dialogues, we're granted serious, interesting lines that reveal more about these layered characters, while also being offered subtle hints about Pearl's deteriorating mental state, and when she erupts later in the film, we have a clear path to trace it back to, showcasing the methodical writing that was put into this project. Not to be outdone, the ensuing argument between Pearl and her mother is an absolute masterclass of a scene, with both of their powerful performances sweeping us into a whirlwind of emotional conflict, and the thunder and rain serving as a perfect backdrop to the mother's menacing takedown of Pearl's dreams and an expose of her dark, twisted side. I was fascinated by how they contrasted the regret-filled, wrathful, vindictive monologue of her mother and her desire to suppress Pearl's so-called sinful desires with Pearl's young ambitions and slowly metastasizing psychopathy. The whole sequence is brilliant, climaxing with Pearl accidentally killing her mother while actually trying to save her, which causes her mindset to completely collapse, kicking off an entirely new phase for the character. She ends up losing it at the slightest sign of rejection from the projectionist, becoming racked with paranoid insecurity and killing him as well, just moments after fawning over him and the possibilities he could have brought her. I guess that just shows us her true colors though. As soon as someone doesn't buy into her delusion, she lashes out, revealing her real self. Each life she takes at this stage in the film impacts her significantly and reinforces her crazed mindset by making her more and more racked with guilt, and as she goes along, her victims become more and more innocent and undeserving. Case in point, her father. Although, to be brutally honest, if I was in his situation, I would kind of want to be put out of my misery. This all climaxes with what Pearl perceives as her big shot at stardom, the tryouts for a local church dancing group. She gives it her all, her unhinged, creepy as hell all, but when she ends up rejected, she realizes how she truly has sacrificed everything for this opportunity and still ended up missing her chance. Her rejection serves as the backdrop for the centerpiece of the entire film, her 8-minute-long one-take monologue explaining her guilt, her feelings, and her entire psyche to her sister-in-law, while pretending as if she's talking to her husband for the first time in over a year. Just as she gets lost in her thoughts and ends up forgetting that she's not really speaking to him, we get lost in her broken, crazed gaze on the edge of our seats, studying this truly layered and rapturing character. Mia Goth provides one of the best performances in all of horror history here, if you ask me, slowly coming to terms with everything she's done right before our very eyes and admitting to her own failures, showcasing how self-aware and nuanced she is. Once it ends, we're launched into the big finale, starting with a tense, almost standoff-like scene between her and her sister-in-law, where feigning kindness to cut through an awkward situation is turned into a life-saving method. However, it doesn't work in the end, turning Pearl's short-lived broken smile into a terrifying, menacing, emotionless glare, and kicking off an intense final chase scene heightened by yet another brilliant long take, as well as the victim's actress putting so much emotion on display, making us really feel for her, as well as all of Pearl's previous victims. With this ending, we're finally given a chance to zoom out. As gruesome, depraved, violent images are played over her mother's voice, eerily reading a German nursery rhyme, we're given the chance to reflect on everything we've seen. A chance to realize the true gravity of what Pearl did and its implications for her future. Finally, Mia Goth's uncanny, forced, extended smile ends the film, credits playing on top, and the movie's brilliance becomes fully clear. It isn't just the ending, but the entire experience that's truly well crafted. Although I must say, that final chase in particular serves as a really effective final entry into Pearl's body count. No, not that kind of body count, God! So all in all, this is an incredible movie made so good by the great, complex characters that are brought to life with amazing performances, unforgettable kills, an interesting story made even more fascinating by the historical context surrounding it, and an absolutely amazing lead performance that will go down in history as one of the best in the genre. Pearl may not be my favorite movie out there, and it's not even as effective as X, which is a story for another time for sure, but I still absolutely love so much about it, and I honestly cannot wait for Maxxxine. But for now, Pearl gets an outstanding 4.5 out of 5, and I'll see you all next time with my review of X.